The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Theo Goodman from Transmission Rocks.
Good evening.
Will Pangman from Topeki.
Howdy.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to Issue 1. Issue 1. The recent Bitcoin bump is not from Greece. The Greek crisis continued this week with the country defaulting on their IMF loans, banks freezing accounts, leading to long lines at the ATMs where the fortunate received 60 euros and the unfortunate received nothing. Many Bitcoiners have tried to turn this tragedy into their opportunity, but the facts on the ground persist. The Greeks have no native Bitcoin exchanges, no native Bitcoin industry. And if you had 60 euros to your name, I bet you'd spend it on food, not some obscure internet currency. However, perhaps the Bitcoin fire has spread to the rest of Europe and the world due to fear of bailouts. Theo Goodman, your thoughts on the Greek situation?
I don't think it matters if people in Greece are buying Bitcoin or not. It's still because of what's going on in Greece itself. So even though there's not a large demand for Bitcoin in Greece, it doesn't matter. Price is about perception. And the perception is that you can use Bitcoin to avoid capital controls. And that's correct. That's an important utility of Bitcoin. And this is the second time in recent history that a country in the European Union has had really strict capital controls. We had a similar situation in Cyprus, and the Bitcoin price also went up. So you see that a lot of times, what if gold goes up in price? Does that mean a lot of people in the crisis area are buying gold? Probably not. But the perception is that's a good thing to have because of X, because it has a certain utility, or it's a safe place to put your funds, to avoid risk, to hedge your risk, etc. And definitely the other countries in Europe, people are definitely taking more of a look at Bitcoin because of this, because everybody knows what's going on, what's around the corner, and what's possible with these capital controls, not to speak of a possible haircut of all bank accounts.
Good point. Will Pangman.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the volume increases that we've seen in euro trading with Bitcoins, or just Bitcoin in the last several weeks is local Bitcoins has had record volume week on week for several weeks, I think now. That's not coming from Greece. That's coming from everyone who's looking at Greece and preparing themselves to be able to mitigate a similar situation in their homeland or country. So, and again, that is Bitcoin's value proposition, as good as Theo said. So I don't know. I mean, I know what people are saying. Like, there's lots of mainstream economists or pundits out there deriding Bitcoiners on Twitter and other social forums for the Schadenfreude or whatever. But was Satoshi using Schadenfreude when he put the message in the Genesis block that he did? Is he dancing on some grave there with, I mean, I didn't see any damage joy, which is kind of the translation of Schadenfreude. I didn't see that. I saw PSAs. I saw people trying to spread awareness. I saw people pointing out to prominent spokespeople or thought leaders or economists or political pundits around the world who have derided Bitcoin or claimed it has no use cases or whatever, going back to those people and showing them that, yes, indeed, Bitcoin is a powerful tool, especially for anyone who might have been able to avoid, the eventual haircut, which sounds like 30% now for deposits of 6,000 euros or more. 30% will just be taken from these people. And how can you defend against that? How can you defend against withdrawal limits at ATMs and obviously 500 million euros in reserves remaining in Greece? That just came out this morning, I believe, or maybe late last night. So there is only one way. there is only one way. There's no Western Union, no PayPal, there's no credit cards or payment services that allow me to send friends in Greece money. None. There's one way that isn't mainstream payment channels and regulated and whatever, and that's Bitcoin. And I think anyone out there who, is gloating or dancing on graves or dancing on pain of others, obviously I haven't seen that, but that's obviously wrong. That's obviously misplaced and very, it's not advantageous to the message we're here trying to present about Bitcoin. But what I have seen has been, solid and important. And we need to spread awareness that there is one solution for people, maybe not now, after the fact, but there is one thing that we can share with people that will work for them, and that's Bitcoin. And local Bitcoins, there is a market in your, probably 200 of the 211 countries in the world. There's a market in local Bitcoins for you.
I have seen some of those posts on Twitter, Will, of the Bitcoiners trying to convince people from Greece to try Bitcoin, and I agree with them in principle. Like, I think we want the same things. We all want Bitcoin adoption. We want people to try it. I'm not sure about the timing. It seems like the horse is gone, the barn door was left open, the house is on fire. It's not exactly the right time to give out some flyers and tell people about Bitcoin. I think if you really want to help people get Bitcoin, Argentina, Brazil, Ireland, Italy, other countries that have potential economic crises but haven't, exploded, haven't popped yet, whatever you want to call this Greece thing. This is one where I know it seems like an opportunity, but the reality is, even if you could send Bitcoin to your friends in Greece, there's nothing there they could buy with it. There's not a merchant economy. There's not a setup. It's a nice gesture, but $5 on your phone is just not going to be useful in this situation. They need bread. They need food. It's a true crisis. So I'd really like to see this energy focused on other countries that haven't fallen yet. And
right.
I know that it takes foresight and planning, but we can plan and have foresight even during a crisis.
I agree. I just want to reply real quick. You're right. Point the attention more at these upcoming potential crises, definitely. But I think Bitcoiners who were around during the Cyprus crash, they, from the hilltops were like, Bitcoin, and this was right during the first big run-up, of that year, 2013, the 266 bubble on Gox, in early April. So, yeah, we should direct our attention towards these other potential crises. But this is how you show that these other. Here's the thing: when you tell people that Bitcoin allows you to avoid capital controls in the summer of 2014, everyone poo-poos that because that won't happen. Cyprus is a tiny island, maybe Portugal, maybe. And who knows, maybe some other small island nation or micronation gets in trouble, but there's bailouts and safety nets, and we don't need to worry about that. But when there's blood in the streets, figuratively speaking, and hopefully not literally, like we're seeing in Greece, there hasn't been enough done to drive home the point. And what the fact is, I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, I forget who said this a year ago, or maybe it was right after the Cyprus thing, that people will not learn unless they get burned. A lot of people haven't learned that the banks aren't their friends until they had the mortgage foreclosure that was completely unfair and illegal, but happened anyway. So they need to get burned before, they never touch the stove again, maybe. And that's unfortunate. I don't think I'm not saying that about the Grecian people. I'm saying that about anyone who has poo-pooed Bitcoin's ability to allow for financial autonomy, because we have such a secure monetary system. That's who I'm directing that comment to.
I agree. And going back to the Cyprus thing, while I want this to be like Cyprus, and I thought it was great fun when the price of Bitcoin was going up like crazy, for me the Cyprus situation is very different because Cyprus is, number one, an island nation. So if you know anything about islands, everything that gets there has to come from somewhere else, and things are often leaving there and going somewhere else. And that's where the money came from in Cyprus. It was outside foreign investors' money that was temporarily in Cyprus that the government was trying to seize. Whereas
Russian
in the Greek situation, exactly, Russian billionaires. And, if the money got there from somewhere else, the money knows how to leave as well. So having it leave into Bitcoin was just a surprise for everyone. But in the Greek situation, I think this is mainly local money. These are people's savings. They're not necessarily travelers. They don't know how to move their money, and they've never heard of Bitcoin. So I think
I
it's
read a
more.
stat, real quick, I read a stat that 40% of people have never used the internet in Greece. That's huge. That's huge. So again, this isn't so much about the Grecian people. And again, also, I don't think Cyprus, the events in Cyprus contributed to the massive run-up in price in Bitcoin. What we've later found out, or if you do enough digging, you can find that what led to that price run-up were the Winklevoss twins, Wences Caesaris, and several other major stakeholders bought their position in that period of time, or were in the process of acquiring their position. That increased, all these millionaires jumping in the pool at once. That really, caused the price to go up. And we don't know the shenanigans on Gox as well, but certainly there was upward pressure from these millionaires wanting to get their stake. So again, and whatever follow-on or fear of missing out was going on because of the Cyprus crisis, that was just again, like showing the world that there's an application here.
Theo, do you want to make one more point?
Sure. Well, of course, any news-driven event is an excuse to FOMO in. Always. FOMO is fear of missing out. So if I want to, let's say I wanted to manipulate the price, of course, it's nice to have a news event, and then it's not just random at 12:01 one day and my bot goes off. However, what I wanted to say is, I don't know what people want, but I wouldn't mind having $5 of Bitcoin on my phone when, my country's local currency goes into hyperinflation after we don't have euro anymore, and they're going around and confiscating silver and gold. Not saying that's going to happen. However, it would be cool if I had something that was not able to be confiscated. If I knew, I'd have to know what I was doing. But so there is utility, and there is something going on in Greece. So
I agree, Theo. There is a usefulness to Bitcoin. Giving it to someone is a useful thing, and we had kind of a discussion, argument, debate, whatever you want to call it, on Twitter. And basically, it came down to, I think it's not that useful to give someone an umbrella during a flood, whereas other people do think it's useful. And that's just a disagreement that we're having on points. Like, we're still pals, I think. No one's, banning and blocking and burning anyone's house down. It's a very, we can have these debates and discussions, and we can get down to the truth of, yeah, I think it's not that useful. You think it's useful. I'm not going to stop you from doing it. I'm just pointing out, that it looks kind of bad when you're giving someone an umbrella during a flood.
Well,
I'd rather have a boat.
What do people need? I mean, they're going to need imports. I think bread they can probably buy in drachma, local currency. That's fine. Imports are going to cost a lot. Pharmaceuticals, machines, stuff like that. So
well, let's keep the show moving to an exit question. What's the next country to go into crisis? Theo, Argentina, Brazil, or Italy?
None of the above. American territory, Puerto Rico.
Oh, throwing out the question. Will, Argentina, Brazil, Italy, or perhaps Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I think Theo stole mine. I was going to throw in Puerto Rico, but I'm going to just say the city of Detroit, or California, or somewhere like that, a U.S. territory.
Hey, Thomas, you're muted.
There it is. All right,
Try again.
All right, come on, computer. Hang together for just 45 minutes here. My computer is drastically overheating, and it really can't handle this anymore. But we're going to keep going with the show until my computer dies. Issue 2, Kleiner Perkins. Blockchain tech will spawn Amazon-sized successes. One of the oldest venture capital firms in the country, Kleiner Perkins, is getting into the blockchain in a big way. Their recently launched VC firm, KPCB Edge, has a $4 million budget. That's not that much, but is expected to impact the industry in a big way, considering the company was one of the early investors in Amazon, Google, and Netscape. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Will Pangman, more VCs in Bitcoin, always a good thing or always a great thing?
I think I'll lean towards always a good thing. Certainly, KPMG, they've got their reputation. They're certainly the pedigree is substantial. And again, once you just see that A16Z or Andreessen Horowitz and KPMG and maybe Union Square Ventures and a few of the Draper family, all kind of anointing Bitcoin as the next unicorn maker. I don't know what more people need to see. Maybe a few more tests by NASDAQ and who knows what. But certainly, all the predictions are kind of coming true right now. Everyone thought that 2014 to 2015 would be the year of venture capital. 2015 and further would be institutional investment coming in. Big private equity, big financial firms. And so this is part of it. If you wanted Bitcoin to stay small and niche and fun and dark and kind of a clicky thing on the internet, like certain memes are, then the time for that is over. That time has passed. So if that's what you're in it for, then you might have to find your new coin. But it's exciting. We're having these very, very lively debates. Hopefully they can stick closer to computer science and stray more away from the political. But the debates about scaling this technology and building infrastructure on top of it. We're seeing some really exciting new startups. It's not just your same old web wallets and brokerage services and payment processors and other things like that. You've got Abra, you've got Ascribe, you've got lots of really interesting things. Alexandria project. There's tons, and these are all like huge use cases. And again, 2.0 technologies aren't really even here yet, and if ever, right? So it's just exciting time. I mean, I think on the 200-day moving average of the Bitcoin price, it's about I think like $400 oversold or something like that. If you look at some deep charts like that, so you're still an early adopter if you get in today. That's the point.
So, Will, just to confirm, Kleiner Perkins is KPMG?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I? Excuse me.
I was just curious. I wasn't sure about the connection there, but I mean we can look it up later. Let's move on. Theo, your thoughts on Kleiner Perkins?
Sure, why not? I like Netscape. I used Netscape. It was really important to, use the internet back in the day, and it was pretty cool. So, the more venture capital in Bitcoin or in blockchain, the whole ecosystem, I guess it's good. People are struggling to stay relevant, and they're jumping in. They're FOMOing in with the VC money. That's how I look at it. On the other hand, not all VCs are created equal. It really depends on, what they're doing. And, probably we need to have a discussion on who's taking the risk here. Are the VCs taking the risk? Are the startups taking the risk? Who's really taking the risk? I mean, if someone's really willing to go on the line and, invest in a company, that's a huge risk. But, let's take a close look at what's going on there for real.
Very good. Moving on to the exit question. If you could invest in one Bitcoin company, which one would you choose? Will Pangman.
Shapeshift.
Theo Goodman.
Transmission.rocks.
And I, of course, will stereotypically go with purse.io. Now, come on, computer, load that screen share on the side. What you have to do is when the mouse hovers over it, you bring the menu back on screen, because for Google, just putting a menu on the screen was not good enough. They have to hide the menu, and that's going to take more memory. Ah, there we go. This episode of the Bitcoin Group is brought to you by Purse Instant. Purse Instant, where you can save 5% on Amazon instantly and receive 2 free 2-day shipping just for shopping with Bitcoins at Purse. Try today at purse.io, where the Bitcoin spending is easy and the discounts are huge. Don't forget to ask your questions now. We might blitz through them at the end, but we are running out of time, so we're going to quickly move on and try to go back to screen share. What a risk. Can this computer even handle this? Issue 3. New analysis from Bitcoin expert Tone Vase confirm what most people already know. The price of Bitcoin is on its way up, most likely due to recent speculation on the Greek crisis and perhaps others hearing about Bitcoin because of the crisis. Theo Goodman, your thoughts on the recent movement in the Bitcoin price?
Well, I haven't read the whole article on Brave New Coin, but yeah, the price has gone up recently, and it looks pretty healthy. I think we're in, there's going to be some kind of pullback here, but I'm not sure how dramatic. So currently we're right where my mouse is, and this line here that I've drawn, that's from the weekly over here. So we, broke over this fractal point here, and I think, it looks pretty good. Some people pointed out it has gone over the, I don't have it on here, the 200 MA moving average on the daily, which is pretty significant. But, let's not get too excited. Everyone is in Greek fever. Let's see what happens on Monday when the Greeks have voted on the referendum, and what will the Bitcoin price do then?
Good question. Will Pangman?
Yeah, it looks to me like Theo said, folks are in a wait-and-see approach based on Greece, based on China's stock market, based on various other debt issues around the world. So yeah, I think I shared some of my thoughts on the recent price in the last question, so I'll keep it brief. You're an early adopter if you get in around 250.
Exit question. What will the price of Bitcoin be 1 month from now? Theo Goodman.
Okay, so I made a little chart. 1 month from now, so here's the weekly. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think approximately $282.
Serious predictions. The guy's got a chart. Will Pangman, your pick.
I don't have any charts, but yeah, I think we're going to see stepwise upward price movement for the next year, maybe even more dramatically somewhere in there. So next month, see a $20 increase from where we're at today. So I'm in Theo's neighborhood.
And I'll go above that with 350. But if you've watched any of the previous shows, you know that probably means 150. You can't go wrong betting against whatever I've said, because I always seem to take the sunny side. I think Bitcoin's great. I have no idea on the price. Moving on, issue 4. Silk Road undercover agent admits stealing Bitcoin. Agent Karl Mark Force IV faces 20 years in prison after pleading guilty to charges of extortion, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. As Agent Force's attorney said, he had a stellar 15-year career with the agency, other than this one blip. Many would say the same of Ross Ulbricht, who had a stellar career being an Eagle Scout, Story Corps participant, and law-abiding citizen, until his one brush with the law. Will Pangman, does the fact that the agents who were investigating Ross were stealing from him, blackmailing him, and entrapping him into false assassination plots change your thoughts on the Silk Road case?
Well, I guess it doesn't change my thoughts on the case because I've kind of held the same opinion all along that this was a railroading of justice basically. So no, it doesn't change my opinion, but it certainly should change a lot of people's opinion. Anyone who wanted to, anyone who doesn't know the story of what these agents were doing to Ross, and the kind of access that they had to the site for over a year. They're Hi, Harvey.
We got a new friend. Want to see him?
Okay, I'll come back and see him in a second. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, it's a miscarriage of justice. Ross deserves a retrial, and Yeah, it'd be great to see more of the truth come out, but unfortunately, because of the pleas, these two undercover agents pleading out instead of going to trial, I'm less optimistic that we'll see much more come out about all the questions that the defense raised before they were shut down in Ross's trial. So hopefully we can get some of the truth out, and I certainly think this news helps his case. And yeah, we'll just see.
It does really raise a lot of questions about the trial, what went on, why the government was continuing to run the website if it was such a harm to the American people. The government owned and ran the website for several months on their own when many of these cases of drug overdoses happened under the government's watch. And if you hadn't read about the case before and you weren't interested, boy, this sure should get you interested. I think the retrial could be really interesting. Theo Goodman, your thoughts?
Well, they kept the website running to catch the bad people, to protect us. That's
But
obvious.
they hurt good people while they did that.
I know. It's a weird reasoning. So let's get this straight. Karl Marx Force. That's a real. I can't even believe that's a real name. Pleads guilty to this whole thing with the Silk Road with magic internet money. So we got Karl Marx Force, magic internet money, and the government stealing. It's pretty crazy story right out of a comic book. So we've got some serious, comic book Star Trek stuff going on here that's really weird. But seriously, people take a look at this. Maybe I'm a little jaded. I'm not surprised or shocked that something like that happens. I think stuff like this happens all the time. It's just that it doesn't get a lot of publicity. So let's not be too shocked. This is unfortunately regular that things like that happen, that people in power take advantage and, take a little bit off top, little haircut here and there. No one's going to notice, but they notice the Bitcoin. If he should get a retrial, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Of course, I hope it would be great if he could just go out of prison. He's not hurting anyone by running the site. That's clear. But, in the eyes of the people in power, he broke the law. And I don't see a real way around that currently. Maybe there's a chance for a mistrial. I don't know. Probably going to need a lot of money for a lawyer.
Yeah, Tom, your introduction was really, really spot on. I mean, the agent's attorney is saying, oh, he's had this spotless record up until now, up until he tried to steal transparent, traceable money. What was he? How was he able to keep his record clean with the other system? I mean, we don't know what kind of other undercover skimming he did, rogue skim jobs that he pulled while he was undercover on other investigations, and we may not know, right? So I'm sure there's a lot being done to keep that hush-hush. So again, I mean, that's something we should all consider. Now that there's Bitcoin, this is full transparency, and you're a moron like these guys were. I mean, sending money to Gox and then or Bitstamp and having them direct deposit it into your account. This is just, it's so foolish. It's so foolish. So yeah, I highly doubt these guys had a unblemished record in their careers if they're so willing to, for the course of years, commit crimes in their undercover investigation.
Well, and I agree with Theo. I was surprised by the agents' names. I didn't think of it so much as Karl Marx, as Theo was kind of hinting at. I was more reminded of a Simpsons episode where the judge said to Homer, who was asking for a new name, he said, I will give you the only name that you spelled correctly, Max Power. And then Homer says, I got it off a hairdryer. And that's where we were, Agent Karl Marx Force. Just fantastic name. Always in the movie, I can't wait to see him portrayed in the movie. I'm sure he'll be an absolute character. But we're about running out of time. We have one more question. We have the exit question, and Theo already answered it. But Will, if Ross is granted a retrial, the verdict will be?
I think he'll get acquitted. we can get an actual trial. If he can get an actual trial, he'll get acquitted.
Incredible optimism from Will, but I'm sorry, the answer is guilty. He's still guilty, even with the feds and the entrapment and the theft and all the other things that's happened. Now, let's see, we have just a couple of minutes for questions and answers, so we're going to do these really fast, and we only have 2. So let's see. Michael asks, "Hi, everyone. Great to see you on. What is Andreas putting his time into now? I understand he sold blockchain." Well, I don't know if he sold blockchain, but I think he's left blockchain.info, and I've heard that he's working on Third Key Solutions, which is a system for large businesses if they want to do their own kind of Bitcoin thing with multi-sig and other security technologies. Andreas will consult with them personally. And Pamela Morgan from Empowered Law is also involved in that. And I hope it turns out great, and I support him in whatever he does. So it would be great to see him again and them again soon.
Yeah, they both Pamela and Andreas just this past week joined the board of C4, the Cryptocurrency Certification Consortium, I think is what it's called. It's a standardization body, an attempt to standardize the professional skills required to contribute both non-technically and technically to companies or employment for these applications. So they're on the standards body to help develop these standards with Michael Perklin and his group.
Well, that sounds great, and they couldn't have gotten better people for it. I could barely unmute myself there as my computer continues to melt down and self-destruct. We have one more question. It's kind of a comment from Trezor Stratum. He says, "It's been a while since I tuned in. Great to see the crew again. It's great to see you guys as well. We don't have a lot of time for this show today. My computer was overheating earlier. Time is just very short in general. I went to 3 Bitcoin meetups this week, the developers, the Bitcoin social, and the Bitcoin trading meetup. So thanks to everybody that I saw at those meetups. It was great, but it's been really busy, and it's Friday, and I think we're almost done here. So I think we're going to do one more thing, predictions or a story of the week. Theo, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? If my computer will even let me click on you.
Well, I'm not prepared. My prediction is that when the fiat, the Forex markets open on, well, what will be our time, Sunday night, there'll be a big gap. Mind the gap. If you know what that means. That means the price is here right now, and then they're going to say, market open, and whoop, it starts like this. So in Bitcoin, you don't have that because we have 24/7, 365 days a week. But the Forex, the foreign exchange currency markets, are closed on the weekend, and so you can get a gap, it's called. So I think there's going to be a huge gap. That's my prediction.
It reminds me of Dr. Strangelove. We cannot allow a mine shaft gap. Will, your prediction or story of the week?
I'm going to go story of the week this time. It's a privacy-oriented story. So there's a new cryptocurrency buying or Bitcoin buying service that's very privacy-oriented. Rick Falkvinge, who you might know as a Pirate Party leader, I think in Sweden, and very vocal Bitcoin advocate, has a blog post on privateinternetaccess.com's blog. That's a VPN service that accepts Bitcoin, but they have a blog. He writes that there's a new financial privacy service that lets you buy Bitcoin directly from mines. So directly from Bitcoin miners, meaning your coins have no history behind them. Now, this kind of straddles the thin dotted gray line of what the definition of money laundering is in a very interesting and challenging way. We're seeing how Bitcoin challenges the status quo and all of the concepts and state-ordained structures in our society, and we're not done seeing how that's going to play out. Here's another very profound and interesting question being raised by Bitcoin's technology and the services that can spring up around it. And I think it's fantastic. This is much like Shapeshift, which I sing the praises of all the time. This uses the Bitcoin core traits and features, that allow it to stand out and above and well beyond the next best alternatives of any fiat money to demonstrate its power, right? So I love apps and services companies that form that really demonstrate the true power of Bitcoin, and this is one of them. It's going to make people, it's going to rustle people's jimmies, as Blake Anderson likes to say.
Sounds great. I'm also a big fan of one of Falkvinge's new projects. I forget what it's called, something like Pirate Media or some kind of media project, where basically he wants people to take a news story, put a little bit of satire in it, and embed it into a JPEG. His idea being that these JPEGs cannot be advertised on, they can't be easily edited, and they can yet at the same time be easily shared across the internet. It's kind of a new idea. It's pretty interesting. What do you think, Will? You said the same?
Yeah, it's great. I love that idea.
Sweet. Yeah, I was going to try it out. I mean, there's some sign-ups, something like Falkvinge Media, Falcon Media, something like that. But yeah, just Google it, check it out.
Yeah, I think it's called Falcon Media.
Falcon Media, there it is. So, and finally, a prediction. The world is about to change. Bitcoin is about to head into the mainstream. Everything is going to be very different in the next few months. We're going to spend our way to total Bitcoin adoption. TBA. You ain't seen nothing yet. Hold on to your hats. Oh, we're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.